It is true when they say that great joy is easily followed by great sorrow. I thought I was marrying the man of my dreams, but since I got pregnant, as the secrets of my in-laws and my husband Jo-young surfaced, my married life, like dominoes, general collapsed. Jo-young and I met on a blind date. Both sides of the work is stable, get along with the personality is also suitable. Because we are both older young people, we thought that each other's suitable, so early to set the marriage. At that time the biggest problem was the house. Jo-young previously did not buy a house, and his parents live in a 2-bedroom old house. My family and Jo-young's family are both ordinary families. If I had to let Jo-young's family temporarily buy a house, followed by the bride price and wedding expenses, their family is certainly not out of pocket. After deliberating, Jo-young said he wanted to follow his parents' wishes and not buy a new house for the time being. After the wedding, they will go back to their hometown to live. The house will be left to me and Jo-young as a wedding house. I discussed with my parents, buy a house is just to live, no good or bad. The house is just a little bit old, spend a little bit of money to renovate it. Moreover, if we don't buy a house, we don't have to bear the mortgage, and our future life will be much better. We are not afraid to take the bull by the horns in all matters. After thinking about this, both families are happy. The wedding was on schedule, and my in-laws didn't treat me badly, giving me 100,000 for the bride price. These money, my parents did not want, and dowry together, all to me. After the wedding, in-laws are also very faithful. According to the previous said, they picked up the old house and moved back. Jo-young and I live in this old house, living a small life, but also sweet. 3 months later, I got pregnant. As soon as the test results came out, Jo-young and I couldn't wait to call our parents, and the 4 old men were overjoyed. When I was 5 months pregnant, my stomach was already very pregnant, and I was moving awkwardly. Jo-young said, "Let the mother-in-law over, take care of my food and living." The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to get along in advance, but also convenient for my mother-in-law to serve me in the month. I had a good impression of my in-laws and thought that in a few days, I would let my in-laws come over with my father-in-law. You can't leave your father-in-law at home by himself. He doesn't know how to cook, so it will be easier for him to come over. Jo-young moved to red eyes, said he found a treasure, and praised me for being a reasonable and good woman. Mom and Dad are good to me. Sincere for sincere, well, I can't be enmity, right? I joked. Jo-young heard me say this. His expression paused, then teasingly laughed. What I said was wrong. I wondered at his reaction. Of course it's right, whatever the wife says is right. Jo-young touched my stomach with a preoccupied look. When I pressed him further, he only said that work wasn't going too well, and I relieved him with a few words, and it passed. I took the time to tidy up the side bedroom, waiting for my in-laws to come over, so I can live more comfortably. However, the mother-in-law did not wait, but waited for an unexpected guest. I had a double day off and Jo-young had a single day off. One Saturday I was at home watching TV when I heard someone knocking on the door. I opened the door and saw that it was an unfamiliar old lady of about 60. Before I could ask, she opened her mouth. You're Jo-young's daughter-in-law, Xiaoying, right? I'm his great-aunt. I remembered that Jo-young had told me before that he had a great-aunt who had settled abroad with her children all year round. When we got married, it was inconvenient for her to come back, and she also transferred us the share money. I hurriedly invited the great-aunt in and prepared tea for her. After entering the door, the great-aunt did not see any foreigners at all, and looked at our house inside and out, saying while looking at it, "The house has been maintained pretty well in the past few years, and your decoration is quite good." I thought that Daeju was being polite, so I followed her words and said, Jo-young and I compared several decoration companies at that time, and this decoration plan is the most cost-effective and the best. I said while greeting the big aunt to sit down and drink tea. Big aunt sat down on the sofa, picked up a cup of tea, sip, a look of speech. I can't help but mutter in my heart, not to mention the fact that the great aunt suddenly returned to the country. I didn't even hear Zhou Yang mention it. What kind of person would not say hello in advance? What's more, she and I have never met, and she shouldn't have picked a time when there were no acquaintances in the house to come over. By the way, Big Aunt, what are you doing here today? Zhou Yang is still at work. Why don't I make a call to bring him back? I said and took out my mobile phone. No, I'm just here to see you today. Zhou Yang and your in-laws' side. I've looked for them, it doesn't make sense. For this matter to be resolved, I still need to find you. Big Aunt had a serious face. I was even more confused and hurriedly asked, Big Aunt, don't play dumb riddles with me, just tell me what's going on. The great aunt gritted her teeth as if she had made some kind of determination. Hey, paper can't wrap fire, and the great aunt is really out of options. You and Zhou Yang find a way to rent another house, this house decoration fee, big and all to you. I have been living in the United States with my son for the past few years, and now that his business is bankrupt and he can't stay abroad, we have to come back to live. The house has been given to your family for free for so many years. Big Auntie has been kind enough. You guys don't make it difficult for me either. I can't sleep on the street, right? A piece of my heart instantly collapsed, even though I couldn't make things completely clear from the big aunt's few words. But I could still realize that the house had problems. I forced myself to calm down and pressed the aunt for more details. As the big aunt's upper and lower lips closed, the secrets of Zhou Yang's family surfaced completely. The house belongs to the great aunt, who followed her son to the United States many years ago. Before she left, she wanted to rent out the house, but she didn't feel comfortable with outsiders, so she let her mother-in-law's family live in it. Now that the main man has returned, the great aunt wants her mother-in-law to vacate the house. Zhou Yang and his family begged many times, and even said they would help her rent a bigger house, so that she would not tell me about the house. Big Aunt's heart is not solid. Living in someone else's house, how can she feel more at ease in her own home? So, today she just came over to me to show her cards. No wonder my mother-in-law was so quick to give me 100,000 dowry, so there is something fishy behind it. No wonder Zhou Yang has been so preoccupied lately. He should have been tugging at his big aunt for days over the house. If not for the big aunt came to me today, I'm afraid I'm still in the dark. My whole body was like an ice cave, not because I was about to be displaced, but because the shame of taking over the nest and the anger of being cheated instantly wrapped me up. Countless thoughts flooded into my head, and I felt that the sky was spinning, and I started to have difficulty breathing. Big Aunt was shocked and hurriedly smoothed out my breath before I slowly calmed down. I called Zhou Yang and asked him to come home immediately. Not long after, Zhou Yang rushed back, and when he saw Dajuan, he immediately realized what had happened and rushed to explain to me. Zhou Yang said he talked about a few objects before, the woman because he did not have a house not to marry him. He hid it from me because he had no choice. He said that the great aunt was originally going to settle in the United States all the time. If not, his son made a mistake. This house we can live a lifetime. No matter what the reason, should not be his excuse to deceive me. I cannot listen to a word. Zhou Yang saw that I was not moved, anxious to cry bitterly. Thinking about the child already formed in my stomach, I felt helpless for the first time. Big Aunt left a sentence, "You find a house as soon as possible to move out," and left. There was no room for maneuver, and the matter was finally brought to the attention of both parents. My in-laws and my parents came to the house. When my parents found out what happened, they insisted that I get a divorce. My father-in-law didn't say a word, and my mother-in-law cried and wailed, telling us how hard it was for her and how difficult it was for her, begging for our forgiveness. The whole house was in chaos. My nerves were jumping with the noise of the argument, and I just felt like my head was going to explode. Don't even argue. Buy a house. I won't get a divorce if I can buy a house. I shouted with all my might. The family stopped bickering and turned to look at me. My heart aches for the child in my stomach, and I don't have the determination to be a single mother, and Zhou Yang usually treats me okay. I keep finding steps for myself. My parents, although the heart, are screwed up, but my big belly is clear. Discussion again and again. Buy a house is the only way out at present. Considering I was pregnant, I couldn't live in a newly renovated house. Coupled with a limited budget, we ended up picking a second-hand house in a location that is relatively out of the city center. My in-laws said they could only come up with 60,000 yuan and borrow another 40,000 yuan to make up 100,000 yuan for us. They don't have much income, and they said that all their savings have been given to me for the bride price. Even if I take out the 100,000 dowry, I'm still a long way from the 350,000 down payment. When the family was at a loss, my parents brought 150,000 yuan. This is the money your mom and I prepared in advance for your brother to buy a house. He can't use it yet, so you guys can take it for emergencies first. My dad sighed. Zhou was overjoyed and thanked my dad again and again. In my heart, however, I felt very guilty. After we got married, the two of us didn't take a lot of supplies from my mother's family. Although my dad did not allow it, I still insisted that Zhou write an IOU to my dad. The bride price money is my private property. I have taken out. I cannot plan for my mother's family at all. The house was bought and our family moved there. At first, I was angry. Zhou knows that he is not justified. Usually coaxed me. My parents' side is also very attentive. Plus, the in-laws are also dedicated to take care of me. Over time, my heart of the gas will be smooth some. After a few months, the baby was born, and the family's unhappiness was washed away by the joy of the baby's arrival. In the end, we are all family. That incident also turned the page, but also the days are a little tighter. After less than a year, there was another storm. The old house we bought was included in the scope of the construction of the superstore, and we could get the levy payment, 960,000 yuan. Before the levy came down, Zhou began to plan. We buy a new commercial building, preferably with full payment. And then we'll renovate it and we'll have to spend the 960,000 yuan. The good thing is that we will not have to pay the mortgage, saving a large amount of interest. Let's take out a small loan. My dad's 150,000 won't be paid back. That's the money my dad gave my brother to buy a house. My brother also talked about his girlfriend, and will soon talk about marriage. I reminded Zhou. When Zhou heard me say this, her face immediately became a little unsightly, and she turned back to me and complained, "We usually spend so much on raising a child, and you can't work this year with a child. Do you know how much pressure there is on the mortgage? You are our father's daughter, he paid out the money, can really ask for it back? What are you talking about? If my dad doesn't want it, can't we give it back? Your family gave me a total of 100,000 yuan, all of which went into buying this house. If you don't give me my father's money, are you trying to get married to me with empty hands?" I was angry, and only picked up the unpleasant things to say. Zhou heard me say this, instantly irritated. "I am for our family to consider. You're married to me. Don't think of everything as only the mother's family." I was completely speechless. When their family ganged up and cheated me, my dad disregarded the past and contributed money and effort to help us. If it wasn't for the more than 150,000 my dad gave, now this 960,000, what's the matter with him, Zhou? That day we argued a lot. Zhou has long lost the shame of the first lie was revealed. Stalking Neck insisted not to give the money to my mother's family. Later, Zhou simply do not disguise, picking out the unpleasant to say. Such as, if it is not your female snob, our family is not to cheat you. You married into our family, the bride price is also common property. The selfishness in my bones cannot be removed. I thought about it all night and finally made a decision. When Zhou saw the divorce agreement, his whole body was confused. He thought that we were just a couple bickering and quarreling, not to the point of divorce. But in my opinion, it is his character has a big problem. People cannot always fall in one place. I insist on divorce, the child is still breastfeeding. I naturally want to take it with me. When the levy comes down, after removing the $100,000 from my bride price, the bank loan, and the $150,000 that my dad lent us, the remaining small amount of money, we split it equally. Luckily, I forced Zhou Yang to write a loan. Otherwise, according to Zhou Yang's current nature, I'm afraid this matter cannot be broken. Although I hate the loss of marriage, but it is better than in a marriage full of calculations and deception. At least I am now with the child, is down-to-earth life, rather than hanging in midair, may fall off the cliff at any time.